So as with all of our presentations here at Railroads, it's important for us that we acknowledge that Railroads University, our campus, is located on the traditional lands of the Kusepsum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. It's with great gratitude that we now learn and work in this space where the past, present, and future Indigenous and non Indigenous students, faculty, and staff come together. It's important for us to share our statements and our acknowledgements of our lands because it shares that here at Rural Roads, we recognize the importance of Indigenous and non Indigenous peoples' relations, and we continue to learn to understand the history, present, and future scopes of Indigenous peoples. So while we are unfortunately not joining from the beautiful space today, we are all tuning in virtually to be together to chat about our Master of Arts in Leadership's health specialization. My name is Selena Kunar, and I'm an education advisor here to help us navigate this conversation with some wonderful folks who will tell us much more about the program, starting with Dr. Cheryl Heykoop, our program head. Hi, Cheryl. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, everyone. It's an absolute honor to be here with all of you today.
Wonderful. Well, we also have some folks that you might not see on screen, but you will definitely see in our chat box. A big thank you to Rhonda from our enrollment team for being here and helping navigate any questions that may come up, and Christy Jones from our recruitment team, who's going to help navigate any tech challenges that may arise as well. So, with that, you've learned a tiny bit about us. So, let's learn a little bit about you guys. So, I'm going to pop in the chat box because we had some wonderful introductions come in. We have Brendan joining from the Lower Mainland, biomedical engineering, to learn more about the program. Welcome. We have Derek joining from London Health Sciences Centre, London, Ontario. Very cool, Derek. Thanks so much for being here. It's so awesome when we see representation from all across Canada in these sessions, and we may have some folks across the globe as well. So thank you all for being here. Then a quick hello from Christy and Rhonda as well. Welcome to you both. So now that we've got a little more acquainted, let's jump into how we're going to spend our time together today. So we're going to kick off with a short exploration of the Royal Roads University experience. Of course, we're going to go over the program itself, cap off with some application requirement information, and then, of course, leave time for question and conversations. So, why explore RU? Well, to start, we have profs who know your name. Our professors don't talk at you, they talk with you, peer to peer. It's important to us to maintain small class sizes even as our university grows to allow for a conversational way of teaching. When professors are your peers, classes become a sort of think tanks and learning becomes the way of life here on our campus. You'll notice very quickly here at Railroads that we are not about one sided lectures, about furious note taking. We are not about a one answer is right to any specific question, but what we are about is engaged conversations, open dialogue, the opportunity to share theories and perspectives on the questions that we're exploring in our classrooms. And perhaps most importantly, we're not about a one size fits all education. We're, we're about seeing every student as an individual because understanding who you are will help us understand how you learn. Speaking of learning, it's important to us to recognize that learning is based on life. Here at Railroads, your education doesn't just shape your experiences, but it's your experiences that give shape to your education. Being a university for working professionals means that our students bring real challenges from their workplace into the classroom and we solve them together. This isn't an environment of theory or hypothetical learning, but it's where we dive into real world problem solvings in real time. We're so fortunate to have what we call scholar practitioners leading our classrooms. So, faculty who are not only academic experts in their field, but folks who are out in the world putting into practice what they bring into our classrooms. Speaking of folks in your classrooms, we want to talk about some people you build connections for life with. So we're so lucky that in our classrooms, you not only have faculty who are experts in their fields, but fellow students who are industry leaders. So here at Rural Roads, you're not just learning from leaders, you're learning alongside them as well. So with our cohort learning model, we combine people with unique backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences. And you start the program together and you move through all the way to the end. And these very purposefully created, diverse cohorts allow for learning that is complementary and challenging to your own. As part of my role here at Rural Roads, I'm regularly able to connect with alumni. And the first thing they're so eager to share is that they're still connecting with their cohort members from years past. There are WhatsApp chats, Facebook groups, yearly dinners still happening with folks who they learned with for 1 to 2 years here at Rural Roads, far beyond their graduation date. So, what starts as a wonderful, supportive academic networks blossoms into personal and professional relationships you truly have for life. And speaking of life, we really um, drive home the fact that we see your life as an education here at Rural Roads. So, the way we're able to create such deep and diverse learning communities is by recognizing your life as your qualification for being here. So, that means our admission process isn't just about academic achievements, but also your life experiences, your personal and professional achievements and experiences. We look beyond the traditional requirements for entrance and see something that's more important, you and all the things that have come together to make you who you are today. So, no matter what your path getting here looked like, we know that all of your experiences can be used to help you get to where you want to go. Because at Rural Roads, we don't just see potential in your future, but we see potential in your past as well. So, we're built quite differently. Let's flip to the next slide and explore the power of our place. So we're really special here at Railroads because we were built for a purpose. We were created to support professionals in the workplace hoping to move forward with their careers. It's a philosophy that's reflected in our physical location, so we're a national heritage site, but also in the blended learning model that we pioneered. How can we make sure that we're able to meet the needs of working professionals? So that meant let's have a beautiful space folks can come and learn in this rich environment. But let's also create education that can come to you to make sure that your learning here at Rural Roads didn't mean that your life was paused. No, your learning here is meant to complement your life that is very much happening. So from these pictures here, you just see a quick snapshot of our campus from our Hatley Castle, some of our classroom focused buildings peeking out in the back. We're very lucky to have a variety of curated gardens. So here you see our Japanese gardens, though we are located on over 500 acres of overgrowth forest. So tons of natural walking and hiking trails around as well. Many of them which take you to Esquimalt Lagoon, which is at the base of our campus. And you see here, and of course, because we are so proud of this blended learning model that we pioneered, we need to include virtual learning because the power of our place isn't limited to the physical walls on our campus. The power of our place, it transcends those boundaries and comes to you where you need us most. So with that, let's talk about how we are able to deliver our learning in this program in a way that could be beneficial to you. So I'll turn over the mic to you, Cheryl, and let me know when I can switch slides for you.
Great. Thank you, Selena, and wonderful to be here with everyone. I'm joining today from the ancestral lands of the Saanich people here in Saanich, just outside of Victoria, and wanting to honor the lands where I am, and then also to really honor the fact that, in the news lately, we've been hearing about the finding of these remains of children. So the poster, the picture behind me is actually by a local artist here in Victoria, Carrie Newman, to commemorate these children and the many more children's lives who have been lost. And also wanted to just acknowledge, I see we've got some people joining here from London. So just also recognizing the hate crimes that have happened in London recently. And I think it's just important to acknowledge these things because this is part of leadership today. And I think for those of you who are working in healthcare, you're also navigating things like the COVID-19 pandemic and the opioid crisis. So these are all realities that are changing the landscape in which we work. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for the important work that you do, because you have stepped up and continued to step in during some really difficult times. So really wanting to raise my hands to all of you and say thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for being interested in the Masters of Arts in Leadership Health specialization here at Royal Roads University. As Selena mentioned, people come to Royal Roads and they continue to talk about Royal Roads. So I'm actually a graduate of the doctoral program at Royal Roads University, and it truly was a life-changing experience. And that is something that we continue to hear from our students over and over and over again, that they established really strong connections with their cohort members, with their faculty, and it truly did change them and transform them. So I just really wanted to acknowledge that, I think, before I talk about the program specifically. Yeah. So next slide, please, Selena. So why leadership in health? And I think the current realities that we are faced with just demonstrate that healthcare is rapidly changing, and what healthcare was 2 years ago is not the healthcare that we have now. And as such, it's demanding and calling upon us to acquire new skills, to explore how we might work together in new and different ways to navigate problems, to explore solutions, and to achieve results, that reflect the needs of everybody. So how can we ensure that what we do today will be beneficial to patients, will be equitable for the populations that we serve, that will support staff and the well-being of staff? I mean, I think that's something that is definitely prevalent right now, looking at burnout in healthcare. So it's really about how do we bring people together to explore and navigate challenges and come up with some innovative, creative ways to move through them and to make healthcare better. So next slide, please, Lena. And through the program, you lead with others. And when I say lead with others, it's you're leading and learning with your fellow students who are all coming to the program with lived experience and work experience in health and healthcare, but also with your instructors. And all of your instructors have lived experience working in healthcare and navigating these challenges. So we're in it together. I often hear from faculty that, because of the nature of the program and that everyone has such a wealth of experience, we're all learning together. We all leave the experience having learned something, having been challenged. And I think that is really at the heart of the learning model at Royal Roads. So that's pretty incredible. I think in terms of the program itself, key outcomes, it's, one of the key areas or competency areas is looking at systems, and how can we look at healthcare as a system, and how do we identify where the problems are, and how do we then facilitate change? How can we engage stakeholders? And when we're talking about stakeholders, those that we work with directly, but also allied health, community-based organizations, patients and families themselves. And how do we do that to be able to contribute and lead positive change? And I think that positive organizational change is at the core of everything that we do in the MA Leadership Program. And you have opportunities within the program to work with organizations, to work with people, to see what they're struggling with, and to work with them and with yourselves to actually begin implementing that change. I think in healthcare, like many sectors, we need to be working in effective, high-performing teams. So this is something that we focus on in the program. And again, I think recognizing that our teams can have different configurations and different shapes. So really looking at how we formulate our teams through a systems lens. And I know in healthcare, there's a lot of conversations right now about team-based care. So it does require us to expand the teams that we're currently working with and really nurture those partnerships and collaborations. How do we negotiate and lead through the political environments in which we work? And I think that this is something that we often hear is a lot of the organizations that we work in can be bureaucratic. So how do we navigate through the bureaucracy to be able to leverage change? And how do we bring people along with us so they feel like they're empowered and part of the process? And then communication is an integral part of the program, as well as implementing change and achieving results. So those are the key outcomes of the program. And there's so much more. So we'll go to the next slide, please, Lena. So just in terms of the program at a glance, it is a 2-year program and there's 36 credits. And those are offered in a virtual space, and then there are some opportunities to come to campus, hopefully. So we have online learning, and then we have 2-week intensive residencies. So this year, in the offering that's being offered in the fall, our 2-week residency is being held virtually, so it will be in an online space. And we've done this multiple times now, and students have said that they are very impressed at how it feels like we're still together in place. And as faculty, we were, resistant to it, I think initially too. We're like, how can we create the experience and create the container? And it has been truly impressive, I think, for all of us involved. So we've done, we've facilitated many 2-week residencies now, and we've somehow found the secret sauce. So it truly is a transformative experience for those who have been involved. So we have two of those 2-week residencies. And then we have options. So for some of our students, they want to complete a thesis. They'd like to go on to doctoral work. So they know that they'd like to do formal research. For some of our other students, they're more interested in doing a project and learning the skills of research, but maybe applying them to an organizational change project. So there's 2 options. There's a 9-credit engaged leadership project or a thesis, which is 12 credits. So those are the completion options. So 2-year program, blended model, and then there's 2 different options at the end. Wonderful. And then in terms of the schedule, we'll just walk through it a little bit. So for many of you, for all of you, you'll do the Introduction to Academic Integrity course, which is a prep course to get you oriented to the program. For some others, you may also do an academic writing course to prepare. And so if you've been out of university maybe for 10 years, or you don't have an undergraduate degree, this is an opportunity to really hone your academic writing and critical thinking skills in advance of our first distance experience. And the first set of courses are 12 weeks in duration, and there are 5 weeks online, and then a 2-week intensive, and then 5 weeks in the post-residency period. And those 3 courses focus on personal leadership. So who am I? Who am I as a leader? What are my core values? What is my vision for my leadership? We look at communication, so working together in teams, and then a really big focus on leadership and systems, so looking at systems change. And all of these courses we look at through an experiential lens. So yes, there are readings to ground the theory, and then we offer practical skills and opportunities to apply the learning in practice. And in addition to looking at these concepts and ideas through a Western lens, we try and ensure that we also offer differing worldviews and perspectives. So weaving together Indigenous worldviews and perspectives throughout, as well as global perspectives on these concepts in all of our courses. But we definitely try and forefront that in the first set of distance courses. Following that online residency, then you head into an online course called Concepts and Theories of Leadership in Organizations. And that course is really focused on, as the course description suggests, the concepts and theories of leadership. And it is more, I would say, academic in nature. It really gets you to nurture your critical thinking lens and perspective, and consider, what does leadership actually mean to you, by drawing on the leadership theories and concepts that resonate and are relevant to you. And then following the distance 2, so 516, then you have an option of taking an elective. And this is an opportunity to really shape the program to suit your specific needs. So if you're looking at doing a thesis, then you look at Lead 519 and you do an action-oriented research course, which gives you the fundamentals and the foundations of what action-oriented research is. If you're not interested in doing a thesis, then there's some other options. So there's a course called Lead 517 that offers an opportunity for you to design a course that reflects what you're interested in. So maybe you're looking at the impacts of the pandemic on healthcare professionals. It might be an opportunity for you to take a look at what some of the research is that's out there on that, and write a lit review or do an annotated bibliography to get a sense of what that could mean in the context of your study. There's an elective course focused on strategic analysis and decision-making and evaluation. So looking at really practical tools for evaluation in a healthcare context, in a healthcare setting. Looking at building a strategic plan. So that could be another option for an elective. And you can also look beyond Royal Roads. So if you're looking at, a course somewhere else, that's a possibility. Or if you see another course here at the university, that you can also explore that. So as your program head, we would have conversations about what makes sense for you, and then make it happen. And following that, then we come back together as a whole cohort, as Selena mentioned. So this hopefully will be a blended experience where we do come to campus. And this set of courses is really focused on the skills of applied, action-oriented, engaged research and practice. So how might I formulate inquiry questions to support an organization to navigate a challenge? How do I design a project? How do I sequence my methods? So those are really what we're focusing on in that second blended intensive. It's really an opportunity for each of you to begin crafting a project that you're passionate about. And this, to me, I love the entire program, but for me, I really enjoy seeing people come bring their ideas to life about the projects that they want to explore. And there's actually a really incredible webinar that we hosted several months ago, where some of our students are actually talking about some of their capstone projects. And if you get a chance to watch it, it truly is, from my perspective, inspirational. It's talking about leaders navigating the pandemic, and some of their projects are directly related to that. So certainly, Selena just popped it in the chat there, so take a look. And then following that intensive, then you have an opportunity to facilitate those projects. So again, you can either do an engaged leadership project, which is a 9-credit project, or a formal thesis. And with the formal thesis, it's 12 credits, and it's a 100-page report generally, and you have an external examiner. So it's more of that formal academic rigorous process. Whereas the Engaged Leadership Project is a 30-page report, and is more, I would say, practitioner scholar focused rather than the scholar practitioner focus that the thesis would offer. And then within that leadership project, you also have a reflective leadership course that closes out your journey, and that's the 2 years. And I know that was a lot of information, so happy to chat more about any of the courses in the program itself.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. That was indeed a quick blow through of a really comprehensive, important program here on our campus. So please, as things start bubbling for you, pop them in the chat box. We'll have some time at the end of our session today where we can get Cheryl back on the microphone and start asking some questions about the program. I'm going to do a quick breeze through our how to apply section and what our admissions are into this program. But please start popping questions into the chat box as we'll navigate through those together soon. So, when thinking about how to apply, we want to start by providing you with our admission criteria. So, here at Railroads, as we mentioned, we have both our standard admissions, but something called flexible admissions as well. So, for standard admissions, we require a 4 year or comparable undergraduate degree in a related field from a recognized post secondary institution with a minimum GPA of a B, plus, as well as 5 years of leadership experience in a healthcare organization or leadership in a health related capacity. You'll notice in the smaller text on this slide, we have some notes about if you meet the degree requirement, but maybe not the minimum GPA, or if you've been away from academic writing for more than 10 years, you'll normally be required to take academic writing and critical thinking, the course that Cheryl had previously mentioned, and achieve a minimum of a B plus uh, around 5 weeks or more before the start of your program. To talk a few seconds about this course, Academic Writing and Critical Thinking. This is a well loved course here all across our university. I believe we now offer it every month, if not maybe even twice a month. Um, Almost all of the programs here at Rural Roads offer the opportunity for those who have been out of the classroom to start your journey by taking this course to ensure that once you've started the program, you're exactly where you need to be and you have the confidence to start engaging in your academic writing and critical thinking right off the bat. So, if you have any questions about this course, feel free to connect with our offices as we're always happy to help answer those questions. So now looking about flexible admissions. So on this slide, you'll see a different combination of options. And that's because we're trying to communicate that, as mentioned previously, it's not all about the transcript. It's about all of your experiences that have brought you to where you are today as a leader or emerging leader in your field. So, for those who, when I read standard admissions, you thought, okay, maybe not me, but I know this program's for me. I know I can learn from this program and I can provide learning to this program. Well, flexible admissions is for you. So, if you meet the standard admission requirements, but you have a fewer than 5 years of leadership experience, you can still apply. Then we ask you have 5 years of professional experience in healthcare or a healthcare related organization, including 2 years of leadership experience. You'll notice if you take a peek at our website, we have a little star beside leadership when we mention it in our admission pages. And that's because here at the School of Leadership, we define leadership in many different ways. So, leadership experience could include formal organizational leadership, so where you directly supervise staff, maybe your title says manager or supervisor. But it can also be things like leadership roles in volunteer organizations, roles where you find yourself consulting, negotiating, or managing diverse interests in complex environments, roles where you find yourself leading others towards a shared goal or outcome, roles where you influence or organize or coordinate groups of people, or situations where you've overcome challenging life experiences yourself or supporting others, and also including navigating complex systems which have resulted in positive community change beyond yourself. So head to our website to get more information on leadership experience, what that means to us. But please know that leadership experience means many things to us. So, continuing on with flexible admissions, if you don't have a 4 year undergraduate degree, you can still apply. We then ask that our applicants have 10 years of professional healthcare or health related experience, including at least 5 years of leadership related experience. And we have a note here that you're encouraged to apply if you work with un- underserved populations or in areas of healthcare that may be challenging or complex, such as indigenous communities or emergency medicine. We encourage you to apply if you've worked in a competitive environment or you haven't had the opportunity to get 5 years of leadership experience as well. So, again, if you head to our website, you'll notice the title Emerging Leaders. We highly encourage emerging leaders to apply. I'll note that flexible admissions is assessed on a case by case basis. So, again, no one size fits all. So, if you have any questions about what flexible admissions could mean for you based on your academic, professional, and personal background, connect with our offices. We're always here to help navigate those conversations. So, speaking of helping navigate, here is a quick snapshot of how you would go about navigating the actual process of going about applying to this program or any others here at Railroads. So, of course, you begin with your online application, and that application comes with a fee of $126.28. And once your online application is in and you've been processed in our system, a portal will open. And this portal is where you can start submitting your supporting documents. We like to mention that supporting documents don't need to come in a complete package. We highly recommend folks send them over as you're able to check them off the list because it helps us know that you're moving through the application process and allow us to get an idea of where we can support you in that process as well. So, supporting documents for this program include things like official transcripts, personal statement, a writing sample, detailed resume, and 2 letters of reference. Our website, as well as our enrollment teams, of course, are a really handy resource as you move through putting together your supporting documents. So, talking about the website, for our website, for example, the personal statement, you can find some guiding questions that help you get an idea of what should I be providing in this statement. For your detailed resume, our website helps to outline some sections that we want to make sure you include so all of your experiences shine bright. And then, of course, there's some practical information as well, like how many pages should my personal statement be? How can I submit my official transcripts? Who should be my 2 referees and how do they submit their letters of reference? So you can find all that information on our website or by connecting with us. We're happy to help have those conversations at any time. For those who are joining us outside of Canada, there may be some additional supporting documents required. So, for example, a possible credit evaluation report or English language proficiency scores. So, if you have any questions about that, we do have our international enrollment advisors always ready to help navigate conversations for you based on where you're joining us from. And we'll get to their contact information in a short few slides. So, this next slide highlights some of our upcoming intakes. So, we are right around the corner from our 2021 intake for our MA Leadership at Health Specialization. So, the program starts September 10th, putting its application deadline at June 20th. Well, no, when we say application deadline, what that means is it's really important that you have your online application in before that date. Supporting documents are able to come in after that date, but it's important to us to have that online application in so we can have an idea of folks who are interested in this intake. Looking a little further down the road, we do have our 2022 intake listed as well. So, for those folks who may be projecting a bit further down the line, our 2022 intake will also begin in September on September 19th, putting its application deadline at June 19th, 2022. We got some wonderful questions from folks who registered to this webinar about student services that we have on our campus. So we wanted to just put a quick snapshot of some of the different departments we have here who are always eager to help you when you are a prospective student, a current student, and an alumni as well. So student engagement, Indigenous student services, international student services, career learning and development, our counseling services, accessibility services, some of our building-based services, so our rec center, and of course, financial aid and awards. And we got quite a few questions about financial aid and awards, which is wonderful. We highly, highly recommend folks explore what resources we have internally here at Rural Roads to support you, but externally as well. So we have a slide here that zooms in a little bit more on financial aid and lets you know some of the areas that our financial aid and award specialists can support you. So, for example, navigating loans, awards, research scholarships, or other types of funding as well. So, on this slide, you have their website as well as their direct phone lines as well. And they do have a very handy blog. So, I recommend checking that out if you're interested in exploring financial aids at Royal Roads. So, enrollment services, these folks that we have been saying are our stars all throughout the webinar. Rhonda is just one beautiful example of the team we have at Rural Roads, eager to support you through your journey. So, you can connect with Rhonda and her team at learn.more@ruralroads.ca. And if you're joining us internationally, you can connect with our international team at learn.more.international@ruralroads.ca. And with that, we have come to the end of our formal presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing our slides and open up the chat box. I have a little notification symbol here, so that tells me that there's been some fun happening in there. So let me head on over. So we had some great links being popped in from Rhonda. Thanks so much. We had a question early on from Derek. I see you've answered it in the chat box, Cheryl, but maybe I'll open up the floor if you'd like to uh, verbalize that for folks who are watching the recording as well. So Derek had asked, let me pop on up to the question, is the CHE part of the program or as an option?
Wonderful, great. So as many of you know, working in healthcare, the CHE is the Certified Health Executive Program, which is the only leadership designation for all health leaders in Canada. And so we do have advanced standing with the CHE. So if you are a student in the MA Leadership Program, you can apply for advanced standing, which means that you actually receive credit for some of the courses in your MA Leadership Health degree towards your CHE designation. And I can share more information. I think, I can't remember the specifics, but I think there's like 3 courses or something that you get advanced standing and credit for. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Cheryl. And great question, Derek. We had some questions come in to me via private chat as well. So one was, what is the time commitment we can expect when joining this program? So weekly, monthly, how much time should we be setting aside?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it varies depending on where you're at in the program. So if you're in, say, if you're taking one course at a time, then I would say 15 hours maybe a week, maybe 10 to 15. If you're looking at one course. When you're in your intensive courses, so you typically have 3 courses that you're taking at the same time. It doesn't feel like 3 courses because they're integrated. So for you, it looks like one, but there's definitely more of a time commitment because there's quite a bit of reading and things. So I would say, 20 to 25 hours over the course of the week. And then during those intensives, it is a full-time commitment during those 2 weeks. So you are engaged from morning till night. And we do recognize that people need breaks. So it's not like we're packing the schedule. So we're not creating space for people's health and well-being. We are. So we try and take longer lunches. We also look at how can we adapt the schedule timeline so that we reflect the needs of students. So sometimes we may start earlier because we have more students from the Eastern time zone. So we try and be flexible to accommodate student needs. And again, those are just some suggestions in terms of time commitment. And as you go through the program, I think it probably gets easier too. And I think it's always better to say more than less at this point.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. And thank you for the great question. I will note as well when we are able to offer our learning intensives on campus again, we do have short term accommodation available. So if you're anticipating coming to our campus for our on campus learning intensives, feel free to connect with any of us and we can share more information with you about rates or booking. Um, I'll note that our dorms are the old military dorms, so they may not be 5-star, but they get the job done. I myself live here in Victoria, and when I had the opportunity to participate in the learning intensive, I did choose to be on campus, as much of my cohort was from across Canada and abroad. So that allowed me to be a part of this immersive experience, to do that 9 to 5 plus on campus, and something that alumni always fondly look back on is something that's been dubbed lounge learning. So those moments when your formal class time has ended, everyone's kind of in their comfy clothes with their cup of tea or whatever beverage is being had that evening, and where you just talk about what you learned that day, and you get to download and communicate together in a different space. That was something I know was really special about being able to be on campus with my cohort. So for folks who are looking to be on campus when we can be, we have that option available to you. Uh, Another question that came in is to clarify that, so this course is for people with a background in healthcare, not folks who are anticipating being in healthcare one day.
Yeah, so good question. And I would say the focus is on people who are currently leading in healthcare or a health related field. Um, that would be the focus. I think, again, we look at health through a broad lens. So, if you're curious about, if this is the right space for you, I would say reach out. I'd be happy to have a conversation to get a sense of if that is the right fit. But it really is people who are working in healthcare leadership right now. Yeah.
Amazing. And another question. Um, this program looks very similar to the MA leadership. How is it different?
A good question, and it is a very similar program. I think the courses are very similar, similar readings, etc. I think what's different is the people that are in the program. So if you're looking at the MA Leadership Health Specialization, everyone in the program has a health background and is a leader in a health organization. Whereas in the multi-sectoral program, folks are coming from different backgrounds. So some may be from health, some may be working in local governments and not-for-profit organizations. They may be working in paramilitary organizations. Like, it's just a broader group of people working in leadership organizations writ large. So health program is specific to health leaders, and the instructors also are health leaders in the MA Leadership Health Specialization, whereas in the multi-sectoral program you may have a health leader, but you would also have leaders from other domains. And I would say another difference is that all of the coursework is contextualized to health leadership as well. So for example, in the first year you engage in a health or in a leadership challenge, which is really working with an organization to navigate a challenge in real time. And that is a health organization that you'd be working with. So all of the case studies and examples are health leadership focused. Yeah, but really good question.
Amazing. Thanks, Cheryl. We have a question here from Joy. Will the September 2021 program be blended, or will it remain online only because of COVID?
Yes, again, a good question. So the 2021, that first intensive will be online because of COVID. So it won't be blended, but we're hoping that the second intensive will be blended. So we're hoping that things change and we will be able to all come together in 2022. But for 2021, for intensive and blended programs here at Royal Roads, we are continuing to operate online until the end of the year.
Amazing. And I only have one more question on my end. So for any other questions that might be bubbling, feel free to pop them in the chat box. But one more question that came in was, are you able to provide examples of some topics that were explored in the leadership project pathway?
So some engaged leadership projects. Yeah, absolutely. So I had one example I can think of is a student exploring obesity bias and how obesity bias exists in paramedicine. So exploring if it exists and then how it exists and then what can be done to change practice. Another project looking at how do we facilitate team-based care in cancer care. So how do we work together with people within the cancer agency, but also with allied health professionals in the community? And what does that look like? And how do we conceptualize that and make it happen? Some projects looking at, just trying to think of some off the top of my head. Looking at how do we involve staff more effectively in organizational change initiatives? So how can we talk to frontline staff to see what their needs are about change and then facilitate some processes to support staff to feel more involved when change happens? Some other initiatives looking at how do we broker the relationship between leadership and frontline so that there isn't this disconnect. So those are some examples of projects. I mean, I think another example is looking at in care settings. So if we're looking at care homes specifically, we have some students who have looked at projects to explore how can we facilitate stronger connections with families when their families can't see their elderly parents. So some projects have focused on that as well. So there's some examples.
That was such an array of topics. Thank you so much, Cheryl. We have a few more questions here. So, do you happen to have any stats on the average age of the students?
It's a good question. And I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Selena, but I would say the average age of students generally in our master's programs at Rural Roads is the average is about 40. So it really does vary in terms of where people are at. Some people are younger and starting their career. They've got a few years of leadership experience and are those emerging leaders. Others, are nearing the end of their career and wanting some additional skills. So the average is 40, and it really does vary. Like there is quite a spectrum of students.
And then a great question, continuing off of the Engage Leadership projects, asking, can the projects be completed in your current place of work, or is that a conflict of interest if completed on days off?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. And so yes, the project can be completed in your current place of work, and many students do conduct their projects in their current place of work. I think it's just ensuring that, having conversations with your organization to craft what that could look like, and then ensuring that we're respecting and adhering to ethical principles and standards through that work. So being really transparent about the fact that you work there and that people may feel compelled to participate because they know you. So reinforcing that that isn't an expectation. So there's lots of ways that we can work around the fact that you work in an organization. I think there's a lot of value in being engaged in a project in a location where you work. It's just ensuring that we adhere to ethical standards through that work. And I think ethical standards apply to research, but they also apply to leadership writ large and how we approach everything that we do. So, but absolutely, we have a lot of students who do work in their current place of work, and other students who are thinking of a career change and actually explore projects in other areas where they're interested in.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cheryl. It looks like that may be the end of our questions for today. Oh, no, Derek. Yeah, no worries. So, Derek is in IT leadership position in healthcare. Is that acceptable or do you require clinical leadership experience? Oh, that's a great question.
It's a great question, and it's completely acceptable. I think, again, as Selena mentioned, we look at leadership more broadly. And if we're looking at how we can transform healthcare systems, we need to involve many different actors working in healthcare and in health leadership. So I would say absolutely that is acceptable and encouraged.
Wonderful. Well, we still have some folks um, asking some great questions via private chat. A lot of folks on this webinar today, it sounds like we are in process of our application. So that is so exciting. So with that, I believe our session has come to a close. Before we sign off, Cheryl, was there anything else you wanted to share?
I just look forward to hopefully seeing you folks in the program. And if you do want to have any conversations about suitability, or if you have further questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And as I said at the beginning, I am really grateful to each and every one of you for the important work that you're doing. And I think together is how we're going to continue to create change. So thank you.
What a beautiful way to end our session today. Thanks so much, Cheryl, and to everyone who joined us live and who is watching the recording as well. We wish you a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where and you're tuning in from. Bye bye, everyone.